Hello, my fellow dinks. It's another Wednesday. That means it's time for another hump day. What a crazy time in the Carolinas. I know JB has a lot of friends that have been touched by this. My son is home without electricity for over a week. What a crazy storm we just endured, and in places that would never expect to have a hurricane. So before we go any further, our hearts go out to everyone out there who has been affected by the hurricane and all the trials and tribulations that come after that. So with that said, maybe you're around, maybe you found some power somewhere. Maybe you're just on your phone, but we're glad you stopped in for Humpday Happy Hour with Dentists in the Know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live. And it's over a little cocktail, which tonight is in my really cool tumbler, which I'm excited about. I do this show with some of my best friends in the world, Dr. Chad Duplantis and Dr. Jennifer Bell. And as you all know, we are all dentists, we are all educators, and we are all business owners. And we have one common purpose, which is to bring all of you in the know. So my friends, good to see my friend, I should say, not my friend.
Absolutely.
I had friends, then I lost one. Yeah, I don't know what happened to JB, but I'll talk to you in the meanwhile, Chad. How you doing?
Just the two of us. If we can make it, if we try, just the two of us.
Stop it.
You and
I know you wouldn't make it.
Yeah, we wouldn't
make
it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jennifer. I just
You're very, very funny, sir.
Do you know the theme song? Oh
yeah, what is that?
The Odd Couple.
Yeah. Great. Before my time, so I just needed some help.
Oh, thank you for saying that. We appreciate you very much. Drop her down again, Chad. Drop her down. I like it better like this.
Hey, let me ask a question, because I find this rather amusing. Okay, Jennifer is younger than Jeff and I. And you threw out the Odd Couple, right? And you and I always do a lot of movie references, and you and I always seem to be on the same page. We get it, right? Like right before I got on the show, I saw these cans. I believe they hate these cans. Okay. I do
know that one.
Okay. So last weekend I'm playing golf with the donk, right? And I throw this one out there. Okay. And I want to see if either of you all get this. Chancho, sometimes it is okay to wear a stretchy pants.
Chancho, that's an SNL reference. Oh, no, wait. Chancho, that's from Nacho Libre.
Yes! Yeah. JB, did you know that?
No.
Okay. So anyways,
I like toast.
So I like poopies. So anyways, Walsh and I, we're playing golf, and we're on like the 16th green, and I throw that reference out there. And Walsh is like, man, I don't know, you got me. I was like, you've never seen that movie before? And he goes, no. He goes, what movie is it? And I go, dude, it's Nacho Libre. And we're playing with these two dudes that we don't even know, these two Texas rednecks, and all of a sudden we hear, what the is wrong with you, man? You ain't ever seen Nacho Libre? So anyways, now I have the joy and privilege of working with Dr. Walsh's better half on Mondays. And when she came in on Monday, I was like, Lindsay, tonight you have to go home and you have to make your husband watch Nacho Libre. And she looks at me, she goes, he's never seen it? I'm like,
it's bad when your wife is even disappointed in you.
It's really bad. So, Ryan Walsh isn't here to defend himself tonight, but that was really disturbing that he's never seen it.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
JB, what's eating you today?
Not nachos.
No. What you got going on? You're a little quiet and pensive and
gosh, our the last few days, I think everybody in the middle of North Carolina feels super guilty and trying to figure out ways to be supportive and just checking in with our friends, family, and colleagues out west to see how we can support. Feeling a little bit, you just feel helpless. Like you want to be able to go and do the things for them, but there's still so much unclarity. There's just still so many people that are missing that they haven't found. And, the reality of just your home literally swiping out from underneath you. I mean, most of the time in floods, you think if I just go a little bit higher, as long as I'm above the water line, eventually I can be rescued and, whatever. And I've even seen on the East Coast when we flood, you'll see people on jet skis getting out, their boats are getting out. Like it just fills up like a fishbowl and then it goes away. This was such a unique tragedy. And I don't think anybody expected it. So I'm not pensive. I think I just feel like I'm in this very weird purgatory, wanting to help and support our friends and family out west, but not quite having enough clarity yet on what we can do. I've seen a couple of folks posting, like Linda Miles posted today, trying to basically relocate a doctor short term so they could work to earn income because their practice was awash. And so it will be quite some time. Even those practices that weren't affected, it looks like it'll be weeks before they'll be able to get back in just because of the infrastructure to get to the offices. So even the offices might be okay. No parking lots, no roads to get into that. And plus all the patients are still without power and water. I mean, this is an extended period of time with no water, power, or cell service. It's a very unique, it's a reminder about how much we have to be ready for things that are outside of our control and how much we depend on all of these infrastructures and things to be there for us when we need them. And, at the end of the day, Mother Nature seems to always win, and cell phone towers get impacted, power and water, et cetera. So it's been an interesting 4 or 5 days, really.
Yeah. I would agree.
So many of us go back to and think, oh, we've been through a crisis because we went through COVID. And the facts are, we all went through COVID. There was PPP money. There was, what was that? Health service money. I mean, there was always something for everybody throughout COVID, but we don't think of the people that have gone through a natural disaster or a fire or a flood or something like that. And there's no PPP money. And these people are really just kind of sitting around with nothing. And so we do have a lot to be thankful for. And we also need to reach out and help our colleagues whenever we can, because this truly is devastating. So I feel bad. I kind of talked about Nacho.
And I do honestly, I want to say this, Chad, on that note, is that, our Dinks community is a community. And, if I know a lot of people in the upstate of South Carolina who have never had to fear a hurricane before in their life that are still without power and still expected to be at least another week before power is restored. And, there's just so many things that come up. So don't be afraid to reach out, because we've got some great people in our group from all over. And, we all have different resources and we may be able to help. So we may not either. And sometimes it's just okay to talk about it. So anyway, our hearts really do go out to everyone out there. So before we move any further, we're going to let JB do her news. It's a little bit of a down note here talking about all this, but on another note, I'm really excited about our guest tonight because she is perhaps one of the best minds in digital dentistry. And I just sit there with the chin drop, where
exactly.
The picture in repose is me listening to Marta, just going.
You're just Emma the whole time.
I don't have to say Emma; it's Marta.
Yeah.
Marta.
Yeah. Marta.
Anyway, Dr.
Just
Marta.
so we're also then judging your incisal edge position.
That's right. There you go.
You're not at cuspid zero. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Dr. Marta Revilla-León is with us tonight. She's faculty at the Coy Center. She is doing tons of research. I I don't know if any of you keep up with the Google Scholar alerts, but every time Marta publishes something, I get a little alert, and I am just trying to figure out where between teaching at the Coy Center and the research she's doing, when she gets time to actually write these things. So,
Yeah.
but her research is absolutely amazing. If you have any questions about digital dentistry, this is the show you do not want to miss. So anyway, we're looking forward to having her on. But JB, would you like to share some news with us?
Always. I got a little bit heavy and a little bit light, just keeping it interesting. Um, First off, just to dovetail to what we talked about for hurricane relief, many of the dental societies, the ADA as well as the AGD, and a lot of local constituencies as well, are out there to help, even if you're not a member. So if you're looking for help either with support staff, supplies, helping clean out your office if it's flooded, whatever, and you're anywhere in the impacted area from Florida way all the way up, please look once you get cell service, I guess I should say, or the internet. Please reach out to those communities, those dental specific communities. They are here and ready to help. And lots of volunteers have already come forward. They have supplies. They're ready to get into those offices and help these doctors get back to work. So please know that those resources are available. Okay, well, we'll start with the heavy and we'll get to the light. The first is a very interesting turn of events, but no surprise, I don't think, to anybody that's been following this for, I don't know, now about 15 years. We've talked about mid-level providers and dental therapists for quite some time. And this week, actually last week on the 27th, the American Legislative Exchange Council has adopted model legislation to authorize dental therapy. What that means is they've crafted legislation and what it would look like to start bringing dental therapists to all 50 states. Obviously, many of the organizations were not involved in that discussion, nor are they in total agreement with the plan. So they've already been furiously responding back to give them their concerns about what a dental therapist model legislation might look like in each state. There are currently quite a few states that have dental therapy available. We're at 14 states now, but most are pretty localized to Minnesota, Oregon, and Washington, where we're seeing these little pockets pop up. So it will be interesting to see how this moves forward. But this certainly does open the gateway, I think, for states to really start considering what it would look like to add dental therapists into the marketplace and into, the hierarchy of dentists. Now, to help you understand, if you're not familiar with the topic of dental health therapists or mid-level providers, in most states, these would be dental therapists that would provide fillings, extractions, and preventative care. So basic restorative, as they say, at basic surgical and preventative care without direct supervision of a dentist. They would have general supervision, which is more like the medical model, where nurse practitioners and PAs just have to have their charts reviewed by a doctor, but they may not be on site. So that is kind of what they're moving toward, and definitely a pretty big change, I think, in opening the doors for that to move forward. So we'll keep you posted on that. If you are a Biolase customer, you might be interested to know that they did file for bankruptcy and they plan to sell to a competitor. The competitor is Solenda. I'm not familiar with the company, so I don't know 100% what they sell, but they are in a process of being acquired, relinquishing some debt, etc., after multiple years and quarters with lost revenue. And so if you're a Biolase customer, I have no idea what that will mean for you and what moving forward for support may look like. Sonendo is the company. As a Biolase customer, I too have many questions about what this may mean for the future of the support of my hard and soft tissue laser. For those of us in our community that might be the Lord of the Rings fans, if you're familiar with the actor Billy Boyd, and he was best known for his character as Pippin in the trilogy of Lord of the Rings, you might be interested to know why he's on dental news this evening. Well, when he was filming the first the first of the trilogy for The Lord of the Rings, he had an unbearable toothache after going through full makeup and costume. So he left the set, headed to his dentist or a dentist in the community. He had to be draped and covered so that his character could not be released out. People couldn't take pictures or see the costume, etc. He elected to go forward, and he needed to have a filling done or a procedure done. He elected to move forward with that procedure without anesthesia because he had to leave the office and go immediately back to recite lines. Now, he elected to do all of this in full costume because he didn't want to have to go back through costume. He didn't want them to take it all off so he could go visit the dentist. So he came in full costume because it took hours to transform him into this character each time, including his hobbit feet with the little hairs that come out of it. So he elected to go to the dentist fully costumed and also elected to do no anesthesia for the procedure so that he could go back and recite lines. A real true champion of the craft. He apparently was so stressed during the procedure and perspired so much that the hobbit feet came off anyway. That's how much he sweat through his feet as he was responding to the pain from receiving a dental procedure without anesthesia, and had to go back and have the hobbit feet reapplied anyway. I don't know if there's a moral of the story, but I always find it super interesting when many of the most common things that we do on a regular basis, including our life's work, intersect with how a dental emergency or a dental procedure threw a bit of a wrench into our big plans. And with that, that's the news. Lord of the Rings fan or no?
I'm going to have to say that no, but as you were telling that story, I was Googling it because I was trying to figure out where you were headed because my son's film college took him to New Zealand this summer to where all of that was filmed. So I had to see where it was going. But that is truly an amazing story. And, you know, let's just throw this out there for just a second. And you know, we can ask Marta's opinion too, but how do you all feel when a patient comes in and wants a procedure with no anesthetic?
I've gotten pretty blunt and I say, I'm down with it with you, Art, but I'm going to go. And
I'm going to tell you, man, I do it, but it makes
so
me sweat
uncomfortable
more
the
than
whole
the
time.
patient sometimes. I mean, just like, oh, you're just sitting there and it puts so much stress and tension
For
on
sure.
me. Yeah.
Unnecessarily.
Absolutely. And you know, the older I get, the more I just kind of get after it, but it's still just it just irks me because I'm like,
I will say the older the patient is, the more confident I think we're going to get through the procedure without
absolutely
right?
retracted
and then
nerve.
You know, the younger they are and they don't want to get numb, I'm like, this is just not going to go well.
Yeah, this isn't happening.
No, but then you get that older patient that you can't get numb. And you're looking at the radiograph and the nerve's completely retracted. I mean, you know, it's totally calcified. The pulp chamber's calcified and they're feeling every little thing. And you're like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
What is going on? So anyways, Chris Robinson says depends on the procedure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Who I got to
agree
see
with you, Chris.
last week at
cool dude.
Oh, you did?
I did. He was at
the
program I did with Midwest Dental in good old Oklahoma City. And I got to see a lot of people I knew. I wanted to give a shout out there actually, but it's always great to connect with the people that really are active with us and just enjoy the banter back and forth. So it was really great seeing Chris and great seeing a lot of people that follow us. And I got to see actually someone that graduated a year behind me in dental school. She actually married Kay and Bob Garrity's son, Grant Garrity, and moved out to Oklahoma. And so she actually worked with Bob Garrity for a while. So it was really great seeing her. I actually posted that picture on Saturday Plug Away. But anyway, I don't want to keep our guest waiting anymore, because honestly, if we could have her on for 3 or 4 hours, it would not be nearly enough. So Marta, maybe I'm going to make you blush a little bit, and I apologize if I do that. But Marta is bringing a new age in digital dentistry. Marta joined up forces over at the Coy Center, and she has been on faculty there. She's the director of research and digital dentistry at the Coy Center. And what she has brought to the table is really second to nothing that I have seen out there, because as everyone knows, and maybe you don't know if you've not been out to the Coy Center or not taken any of the Coy's courses, but really evidence-based dentistry is something that we have to pay attention to. And so digital dentistry has really been kind of the Wild West. It's been, okay, check out this new scanner. Okay, check out this new printer. And really, the literature hasn't had time to catch up with the technology. And that's really what Marta is doing at the Coy Center, is she's kind of marrying the science with all these great digital technologies and helping us figure out, okay, maybe this is not so accurate. Maybe this is more accurate than we thought it was. Maybe we don't need any more of these analog procedures. So anyway, you are all in for a treat. Dr. Marta Revilla-León, she got her PhD in prosthodontics in Amsterdam at, is it ACTA or ACTA, Marta?
We call it ACTA, but it's ACTA. It's the same.
Okay. All right. I didn't know, I want to be cool. I want to be hip with it. I want to say it right.
You want to get jiggy with it?
I want to get jiggy with it.
And now you're not cool anymore just by saying that.
Yeah, just by saying that.
Yeah, that just dated
her
you
master's in science and dentistry in prosthodontics at the UW in Seattle, Washington. She's been a specialist in digital dentistry with more than 200. I mean, that's pretty darn amazing, because I find writing articles painful. I love it. It's rewarding, but it's really hard and time consuming. So to have 200 publications under your belt at this point, and they've all been peer reviewed publications. So that's just pretty amazing. Mostly in the area of digital dentistry. She's also affiliate faculty at the graduate prosthodontic program at UW, and also at Tufts University in Boston. So it is with great pleasure and really a lot of humility that I say thank you for joining us tonight, Marta. And let's get right into it. How are you tonight?
Thank you so much, Jeff, for your kind words and your introduction. You're very kind. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you. It's been a while since the last time. I think it's like 2 years ago that we had a small talk. It's so nice. I feel very honored to spend some time with you, and it's my pleasure.
Well, we're glad.
Marta's not from here, by the way.
No?
It's very hard to tell.
No, you can't tell. But
that's not Southern.
Marta, where in Spain were you born?
I was born in Barcelona, but I moved to Madrid when I was 9. So
I just wanted to hear you say Barcelona.
I wanted to hear that too. I love Barcelona.
I knew the answer to that question, but I wanted to hear her say Barcelona.
Yes, from Barcelona. Yes, very nice city. I love Barcelona.
Yes.
So let's get right into it, and let's talk about what has happened in evidence-based digital dentistry. So as I said, digital has been kind of the Wild West. There's something new introduced every day. There are different technologies. And what made you decide that you wanted to go down this path of really becoming an expert in digital technologies and maybe sorting out, creating a path for dentists to make sound decisions in how they move forward into this new era?
I think we all go through the same phase. You start working, then you buy maybe a new technology, and then you want to use the technology because you did an investment, right? And then if you have not a deep knowledge in this new technology because it's relatively new compared with analog procedures, then you start being not predictive. You do a case and sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't work. So I started working a long time ago, the first time that I bought an intraoral scanner, and I was in practice and I was not as efficient, as predictable as with my conventional impression methods, for example. So at the point I was deciding like, no, I cannot look bad in front of my patients. I cannot grab the scanner and I cannot have a bad outcome, right? So I was in a corner and I was like having dust. And then after a while I said, hey, I spent so much money on this thing, I need to use it. So, you start doing research, you start calling your friends, hey, Jeff, what do you do in this case? Did you see my scan? And this is how we learn digital technologies. Because as you mentioned, we don't have knowledge at that time. We didn't have enough evidence. So we didn't have an evidence-based digital dentistry. So we always have the early adopters that develop the protocols, but we didn't know if it worked or not. That was the only way to implement the technology. But today, we have data, we have evidence-based digital dentistry, so we can implement the technology and we can be predictable. We can even obtain the same or even better outcome than with our conventional methods. So I think that this is very important. I always say the same example. We need to become the 2.0 users. So the 1.0 users are those that just start with new technologies. So you believe that everything works, life is so good, you have technology, you are super cool, but that's not true. So the 2.0 users are those that have more experience because you are looking for data, you want to be predictable, you want to be efficient. So you know what works and what does not. So we need to all become the 2.0 users, and it needs to be, and the only way to be is an evidence-based digital dentistry. So that is our goal at the center, to implement those protocols in our practices. So it's not throwing a coin to see if it works. It needs to be predictable, same as we are with analog procedures.
Do you find that difficult to keep up? I mean, the rate at which, let me back up, even on the ground level as clinicians, we find it daunting to keep up with the next generation, the next software update, the next this, the next that, because the companies are innovating and evolving so fast that then the clinicians, the research, the evidence-based dentistry is then having to catch up to help validate and convince or show to the clinicians that in fact it works in these scenarios and it doesn't work in others. Do you feel that same compression at the center as you guys are like muddling through the next project, the next data set you want to review, et cetera?
This is challenging for everybody. Technology evolves fast, new scanners came to the market, materials for printers. It's very hard to be on the top of everything. And I think that this is one of the strengths of the COIS Center. And I'm sure that you are familiar. We read 28 journals per month. So we try to be updated with all the publications. So I read all the digital content. Then we always keep updated with companies, with all the latest scan bodies, jaw trackers. We have a great communication, so we have the information coming. But also our courses is not a mono brand. So we have multi-brand, meaning like when we teach a clinical protocol, it doesn't matter if you have one brand or another. You need to understand the concept. What are the factors that you need to consider? And then if you have one brand or another, you will apply the concept differently, but you all will be able to do that. So I think that is one of the strengths of the center. Multi-brand, we don't show only one protocol adapted to one brand. And we try to be updated with all the latest technologies, materials, scan bodies that came up to the market.
So would you venture to say that through your journey in digital dentistry that the scanners have changed drastically over the past several years?
I think that the hardware, we are in a point that there is minor improvements over the newer generations. Like, for example, 3 weeks ago, the Prime Scan 2 was launched. The Prime Scan was launched in 2019 in the market, and we're in 2024. Not big changes in the hardware. The software, I think, is something that is evolving more, and we just update our intraoral scanner. So you don't necessarily need to update your hardware that fast. I think it's more the software than the hardware. This is only with technologies. When we talk about materials, I think that the materials for printing is evolving, but it doesn't evolve that fast either. So I don't think
well, I mean, I guess, how long have you been scanning, Marta?
I started in 2018, 16. I don't know when I finished pros, 2014, sorry.
Okay, so 2013 is when I really ventured into it. And I laugh because things have changed so much. Because in 2013, I was using a scanner that's now obsolete, that was supposedly the best scanner on the market, and it was black and white, and it required powder. And you know, we've seen so many changes over the past 11 years, but I would totally agree, you know, and something that you said really brings up a point. Someone was complaining today that they bought a piece of hardware a few years ago, like 2 years ago, that now they got a notification that they have two choices. They upgrade their entire office system to continue utilizing the hardware, or they replace the hardware in order to adapt to the current office system. And to me, I'm like, we're way beyond that. I mean, my first scanner was 2004. And my whole reason for selling that was because of all of the hardware updates that were required. And I was like, I can't keep up with this. I just can't keep up with, you know, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year to keep up with the software changes. And now I think we're so far beyond that. And when I heard this today, I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. You bought something in 2022 and now it's obsolete. Where is this going?
Chad, at the same time, there is a lot more options in the market, so the prices are going down too.
Of course.
So I think that helps with implementation as well. It's like something positive. In the past, you know, the hardware evolved faster, the investment was higher. I'm not saying that the investment now is not high, but I think it's going down as there are more options in the market and the implementation is growing.
I mean, intraoral scanning alone, you can get into for sub $15,000 with a completely adequate scanner. I'm not going to say it's the best, but it's adequate, it's sufficient, it's accurate, you know, and there's several options out there, but there's a lot that you can do with it. But, you know, digital dentistry has changed so much. I think it's just such a fascinating subject.
I think that the most important thing is, again, the evidence base. Like as Jeff was saying before, it was like the Wild West. Now we have protocols in which we have evidence to show that we are predictable and we can even achieve better outcomes compared with conventional procedures. So I think that is amazing.
This may be minute, but one of my favorite articles or publications that you have out there is basically on how light affects intraoral scanning. And I think that's something that a lot of people take for granted. But ever since I've read that, everything in my operatory has changed while I'm scanning because of what you published. I think it was just, it was fascinating. People don't take into account everything that's going on in the office that affects what you're doing and the accuracy of what you're doing. So, you know, it's little things like that, you know?
Yes, that happens a lot when I give classes about the intraoral scanners. I think that everybody believes that they know how to do an intraoral scan, right? And then if I ask them before I start, they say, oh, I'm scanned super well. I'm very good. I don't need the class. But then when you start going through the content and showing the data, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I don't do that. And at the end of the class, I have many people come and say like, I have no idea what I was doing. And it's true because nobody showed us anything. When you bought the intraoral scanner, who teach you how to use the scanner? I got a 30-minute speech of the rep and then abandon me with that thing and then do it by yourself. You know, that is kind of what the biggest problems that we have with technology. We don't have the same education in the dental school or in the graduate training. And then when you are in the practice, you are kind of, I don't know what I'm doing. and we're in 2024. We are in the 7th generation of the etheric Dentsply system. Like, we are evolving a lot. We can do evidence-based digital dentistry.
Well, I think the two people on this side of the room have been around a little bit longer than you all. We've been able to see so many iterations of these changes.
Did you used to do your digital impressions with a Polaroid camera?
You know what? I laugh. I laugh because I started in 2004. I had this grandiose idea that I was going to eliminate a lab bill. And how crazy was I to think that I was taking basically a 2-dimensional image with a quote unquote 3D one image machine that would produce quality digital dentistry. And things have changed so much, but it's amazing to see how things have changed. And it's amazing to speak with people like Marta, and who's actually a lot younger than Jennifer over there as well. And how she's come on.
Is that a little dig?
Subtle.
That was a good dig, wasn't it?
Sure,
that was
a
really, really good dig.
I look very young.
Yeah. But Marta, I think you came on at the prime time of digital, and how much does you talk about who taught you how to scan? How much variation is there from scanner to scanner as to directional scanning, or how important is it for users to understand the actual instructions that you're given when you're trained on the direction of scan?
It's a great question, Chad, because people believe that you can handle iTero or 3Shape or Prime Scan in the same way, like as operators, but that's not true. You need to change the way that you handle the scanner based on the hardware that you have in your hands. So I think that is something super important that we all need to understand. And I think that is one of the strengths of the center, because we have 12 scanners in the center. So we have experience with them all. Because when we have different dentists coming to the center, we need to be able to answer all those questions. We need to have experience. We need to know the tools of the systems. So I think that is super something very important for us as well. And obviously, we include all those technologies in our projects to test accuracy and to develop our protocols. So yeah, it's very important to understand that you cannot handle the systems in the same way. The concept is the same, but you will apply the concept differently.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, did you have a question?
Well, no, I need to ask Chad's permission, because fanboy up there. Chad, I honestly, like, this is great. I get to talk. I'm so excited. Marta, one of the things, one of the questions that I have, because you talk about going from kind of digital 1.0 to 2.0. And I think a lot of that revolves around functional dentistry. So going from static images and going from scan to mill, to seat, to now considering how do we incorporate our articulation protocols, and how do we incorporate how the patient functions. And I think this is really the pain point for most dentists that like myself, who have been doing some form of digital for a long time. I was an early adopter with CEREC and lots of great success along the way with that, milling. But really where the dip, as John Coyce would describe it, occurred was, okay, how do I take what I know about function, and then how do I marry what I know works in analog dentistry with the FaceBow and the Panadent articulator or the AD3 articulator, whatever you use. How do I incorporate that? And that's really been the pain point, because we have facial scanning, we have jaw motion trackers, we have CBCT that can be married to actually use the anatomy of the patient to predict what will happen. We have wear facet analysis to look. Where do we begin? Where does, What does the average dentist who wants to start incorporating functional dentistry into their restorations, where do they begin? I think that's one of the biggest pain points I see right now.
I think it's one of the questions that I get asked most of the times at the center or when I give a lecture. And I think it's like, what is the technology that I can implement and what can I do with this technology in my practice? And I always ask the same thing, like, what do you do or who are you? Meaning, like, what is the profile of your patients? It's not the same if you do a lot of aligners or if you do a lot of full arch implant prosthesis, because the technology that you're going to apply is different. If not, it doesn't make sense, right? You need to make sure that the technology that you buy, you are going to use it efficiently and it also make a business case in your practice. So it needs to provide you an advantage. So that is something that we need to consider, because depending on what you do in your practice, the technology that you may buy, it may be different. But let's say you have multiple technology options. You can go from an intraoral scanner, facial scanner, jaw tracker, or even 3D printers. So depending on what you do, you may choose what is the best technology that is going to help you to be more efficient in your practice. So that is one process that we all need to go through. But it's a lot of things that you can do with technology. You can start doing data acquisition. We all need to acquire the patient information digitally. You can start with your casts for diagnostic purposes. You can do your cast for fabrication restorations. You can do a lot of things with intraoral scanners. So what I'm trying to get to the point is you need to understand what are the protocols and what are the results that you can get with the intraoral scanner. So we need to learn what is the best protocols that will obtain the best outcomes with intraoral scanners. When we talk about articulators that you were asking, what are the digital face bows that you can acquire, that you can do in your practice, right? We don't even need a face bow anymore. We develop a scan body that you will record the reference plane, and you don't need to do any more face bows anymore to transfer the maxillary cast into the virtual articulator. So, you need to be updated with all those techniques, and those are evidence-based techniques. With jaw trackers, you can record the mandibular motion of the patient, and then you need to understand why is that important. With the chewing, for example, is how you adjust functionally the restorations in the patient. So how do you do that conventionally? You sit down the patient, you grab a paper, and you ask the patient to chew the paper. We do that in this way conventionally because our analog articulators are unable to reproduce the chewing. It's impossible to do the chewing in the articulator. If you want to do that digitally, you can even do it before you fabricate and deliver your prosthesis. If you have a jaw tracker, you can record the chewing, so you can adjust virtually that function before you manufacture the prosthesis. So you will save chair time when you deliver the prosthesis, for example, because there is no other technology in the world that can reproduce the mandibular motion. So you can do that digitally. But again, you need to understand what are the clinical protocols and what are the best way to capture the information so you are predictable and efficient and accurate. So I think those are the biggest points. Same thing with printers. Not everything works, and manufacturers try to sell that printing is easy. You just need to press a button, and it's not as simple. There is a lot of factors that can impact on the outcome. Printing strategy, how you do the post-processing, the rinsing and the curing is not as simple. I went through a lot of phases in my professional career, good and bad, a lot of bad. I remember when I was even in Spain working in practice, I convinced my boss to buy 2 printers. I was like, we need to have a printer. So I convinced the boss, we have our 2 printers. And you know what happened? I was staying there after working with my patients because somebody needs to do the cut. Somebody needs to print the things. And then I left. And then the next morning I was getting in earlier because I need to finish the printing. So at the end of the day, I noticed like I was using all my time filling the charts, doing the printing, doing the cut, and I was not getting anything. Like I was more efficient in the chair working with my patients. We work and we study, all of us, a lot to know what we do in our patients. What's the point to do the manufacturing? In my opinion, if you want to do cut and you want to do printing, it's okay. You need to know how to do those things. You need to understand the process. But I think that the dentist, we are more efficient in the chair working with patients. So every time that somebody asks me, should I buy a printer in my practice? Well, I always say the same thing. Who is going to handle the printers? Who is going to do the cut? Because your time, you will do more money in the chair. And if you have a spare time, use it to make sure that your patients are well taken care of, your staff. You have to have a lot of things to be handled in your practice. I mean, so I think that the most important, just to finish your answer, you need to understand what you can do with the technology in a predictable way, how you can implement this technology successfully in your practice. And then based on what you do in your practice, you may choose one technology or another.
I think that's a really critical point, because so many people go to these lectures or, attend these things and feel behind or want to catch up and then implement a bunch of things simultaneously, which, to your point, all fall on the doctor for the success of the policy, systems, and procedures in the practice. And then where your staff can't make up that difference, then you end up making that difference up. And so that's a really critical point. I was curious to know, as you work with these different manufacturers, because you, particularly in the scanning world, because I'm more familiar with that than maybe some of like the 3D facial and, technologies that are out there right now. But when you're sitting in the room with the manufacturers, my suspicion is they don't even really know where their scanners are optimally performing. For instance, if you're sitting in a room and your data now shows that an Omnicam performs better in the dark, my suspicion is at no point did Dentsply Sirona come in and say, we think it does best in the dark because of all of our beta testing. And when we had it in all of these practices and the doctors were scanning, we never really asked that question. Were the lights on? Were the lights off? And all of those different modalities. So it seems like, in my observation, the data actually comes long after the products hit the market.
Well, that's a strength of the independent research. You may have an idea, then you do a project, and then you discover something that maybe the manufacturer is not telling us, but I don't think that they don't know. I think they know, but because when, if you talk with engineers, they all know that light influence on the accuracy of scanners. But maybe they thought that in the mouth is not as strong or as important because it's like a cavity, how the light that is inside your cavity is going to impact.
Okay.
So I think that is something that may happen with other things that is not technologically related, like with composites or with the immediate dentin sealing. It was developed by a dentist, not by, So those things happen in other fields. And I think that is the strength of independent research. Like, we don't get paid by any company to do any of our research. So sometimes it's based on our experience. We did the light study, for example, because I remember working in the practice, and I noticed that when I had the light coming from the dental chair, it was too much light, and then the scanner was getting slow. It was doing weird stuff, and then without thinking, you just take out the light, and then you speak with some of our team, and then we were, talking. It's like, did you notice? And that's how, sometimes it's just clinical experience, and then it came up with the idea. Or, for example, I remember when I was working in Texas, in Dallas. I know that, Chad, you are in Fort Worth. I remember that on Monday the scanner was not working well, and I was telling my coworkers, like, did you notice?
Texas, Marta.
Right, nothing works. Thank you. It's not only me. And then I remember once going to work to the practice in the weekend, and I remember that they turned off the air conditioning because it was the weekend. It was summer. It was super hot. So I remember getting inside the practice, and it was like a sauna. I did my thing. I left super fast, and then I was thinking, wow, maybe it's the heat. And then I was, calling. That's, sometimes it's those things that maybe, but I think the manufacturers, they know things. They just, sometimes they don't tell us. They you need to figure it out. Or when you show it, then they say,
yeah. Well, and we own it for a really long time. Like, if we come in and the scanner's not working or we don't get a good scan, most clinicians will internalize that as operator error and not environment error or non-optimization of environment. And that goes on, and the frustration in digital technology can often peak from the fact that we just own the poor experiences way too long because, it was just a hot room, or I was wearing my loop light every time I was trying to scan and ultimately wasn't getting ideal outcomes. So I do think we take a lot of ownership for maybe too long.
I think I agree with you, Jennifer. I think it's just we didn't receive enough education with these new technologies. We have much more information with conventional methods, not with these technologies that are relatively new. And I think that is one of the challenge. We didn't receive the education or the information, and then we do our best. We will figure it out. It was going to take us more time. So I think that today we have a lot of knowledge, so we can train and we can get efficient with these technologies in the practice, so we don't need to struggle as we did in the past.
Well, the other thing is, I don't even know if I can verbalize this correctly, but a lot of things change so rapidly that when we get a new version of what we had before, we realize all the things that were slow or inaccurate with the previous version that you kind of took for granted. You just kind of worked around, and then you get the new one, you're like, oh my God, I never realized that. It's as simple as an iPhone when they fix something. But one of the things that I want to talk about with you, because I think it's kind of a buzzword in dentistry right now that maybe a lot of us don't know about, is what about, and I'm going to probably say it wrong, but photogrammetry. There's a lot of that kind of coming to light right now. What are your thoughts on that, and where do you think that is, and how it will fit in, and will it really change the intraoral scanning of the future?
Chad, go through the COIS protocol and then come to the annual symposium, and you will hear that.
Well, I've heard it several times, but saying it is a little bit differently than hearing it. So sorry.
So I'm guessing, Chad, that you're referring to the intraoral photogrammetry, the technology that you can acquire with your intraoral scanner. Yeah. So that is a company that is Shining 3D, that they develop a specific scan bodies that it's black with some dots. That you will position in the mouth in different way. So when you have, imagine a full arch edentulous and you have 6 implants, when you position your scan bodies, because you have an edentulous area between your implants, you have mobile tissue in between, there is no anatomical landmarks, the scanner is going to get lost. Our conventional impression methods, right? So then the next thing that we did and we evolved is we're going to put something rigid connecting the scan bodies so my scanner doesn't get lost. So I'm going to improve my previous technique. So we developed those splinting methods, and we demonstrated that we have better accuracy, better scanning time because my scanner doesn't get lost. But still, we didn't improve the accuracy that much. There's a lot of variables. The implant position is very important, but let's say it's still not perfect. It's not 100% predictable. So then next step is, okay, now we have what we call calibrated scan bodies, meaning after the manufacturing of the scan bodies, a tactile scanner, which is the most accurate scanner in the world, is going to palpate each of the scan bodies. So I know the real dimensions of the scan body. So when I put the scan bodies in the mouth and I do my scan, the dimension of the scan body in the scan is distorted because of the intraoral scanning per se. So the manufacturer, what it does is measure the distance or the dimension of the scan body that is distorted in the intraoral scan. But because you know the real dimensions, they can correct the distortion. That is kind of the calibrated scanning methods. That is kind of an improvement from our previous technique. So we are getting better. But now we have what you were mentioning, the intraoral photogrammetry. So as you know, the extraoral photogrammetry is you have those cameras, you put some markers in the mouth, and then with the extraoral camera, you're going to take pictures with different angulations. And then with this picture, the software can locate the implant position, the 3-dimensional implant position. So if you have that concept, what the system is doing is using pictures, is going to identify some markers, that is normally some dots, and then those dots tells the implant position. So this has been developed for an intraoral scanner. So the difference is you have now an intraoral scan body that is black with some dots. So when you do your intraoral scanner, the scanner is going to identify those dots, and the dots locates the implant position. So it's a merge with the extraoral photogrammetry and the intraoral scanning. So in this way, you may have the most accurate implant acquisition method. We don't know yet. We don't have data regarding the accuracy of this intraoral photogrammetry, but the concept is blowing. Like it's super interesting. I'm mixing the extraoral photogrammetry that we know that it works very well, even better accuracy than conventional methods. But now you may not need to buy those expensive technology. Now with your intraoral scanner that you can do a crown, you can do a cois deprogrammer, you can also capture the implant position with this intraoral photogrammetry technology. But again, we don't have data yet. We're doing different accuracy studies, but I cannot share the data yet. But it's very promising.
So here's what everyone wants to know is, are you going to be at IDS this year in Cologne? Because we need somebody that can take all of that information and say, don't waste your time there. This looks cool. I get so taken back. I remember going there several years back and seeing the first zirconia printing, and it was a huge machine, and looking at the photogrammetry back when it first came on and just being blown away by all this stuff. And it's so easy to be sold on a lot of those things, but unless you have somebody that can break down and say, okay, you might want to wait on this, or this looks really interesting, are you going to be there? And could we interview you after that? By the way, the Dinks will be there, so we might have to do an on-site interview.
That would be nice. For sure, I'll be there, because that is like Disneyland, right? It's amazing. You have all the latest of all the companies. But I have a better answer for you, Jeff. And I'm not trying to sell you anything, because what is happening at the center is we have developing so much data. We have a lot of technology. We have been trying to implement all those protocols and concepts in the core courses, but those are already very busy with content. So we got into a point that we decided to create a new course at the center. So we have now a 3-day course. It's all about digital technologies. So there you have all that you have been asking for. We have the technologies, we have the clinical protocols that are evidence-based. What are the protocols that you can implement with any technology, and you will be efficient and predictable. So you have there all the latest technologies. We have all the technology available. We explain you the different technologies, the outcome of or accuracy of all the technologies. So there you can learn what is predictable, where we are, and what can you implement in your practice.
Well, here's a follow-up question then, is does someone have to go through the COIS continuum in order to sign up for that? Do you have to be part of all the other core courses at the COIS Center to sign up? Because obviously this is something that would be so valuable to so many people.
No, the course is available, or is for anybody that wants to learn about digital technologies with any level of experience, even if you are a dentist or a dental technician. In the last course that was in September, we have 25% of the attendees were dental technicians. And actually it creates a super interesting interaction, because not only us, we need to digitize, the dental technicians need to digitize again, all, like a team. So I think that, no, everybody can join. You don't need to be a COIS graduate to attend the course. And I want to reinforce that it's a multi-brand course. So we are not selling a 3Shape workflow or a Dentsply Sirona workflow. You will learn any technology and how to apply that technology in your practice. Or maybe you are thinking to buy a jaw tracker and you are not sure what you can get, what are the benefits of that technology, how can I implement it? You will learn that in the course.
All right, we do have a question from a viewer. I'll pop it up here. See if you want to tackle it, or can give, a little bit of direction for that for Chris, and help him on his journey.
Sure. Somebody's asking, what is the best processor technology for dentures today? Well, it can be a very long answer, but I'm going to try to go to the point. I think that the limitation that we have today with intraoral scanners is mobile tissue, right? So we can reproduce with the same accuracy as conventional methods when we have firm and attached mucosa, independently of the intraoral scanner system that you have. So when you have mobile tissue, the tissue changes the position, so it creates distortion. So the majority of the studies show that you will have lower accuracy or less accuracy than conventional. So then we don't recommend to do an intraoral scan to fabricate a complete denture. So you can do a conventional impression, as you normally do, and then you can digitize that denture with your intraoral scanner. But it's not as simple as you may think. the scanning pattern, for example, that you use to digitize that impression, it matters because you may decrease the accuracy. And it's not the digitizing procedure, it's how you, the operator, digitize the impression. So there are, again, things that you need to learn so you can be predictable and you can have a good outcome.
And I'm sure that Kois has a protocol for this, but one of our really good friends, Dr. Lori Trost, does a great job with digitizing dentures, utilizing a protocol similar to what you just spoke about. It's an amazing process.
Mm-hmm. And it's very predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are just about out of time.
We could go another 3
honestly,
hours.
The thing that makes me the happiest is learning, and for everyone out there that's going to hear this in podcast and view this over the next couple of weeks, is that you don't have to be a graduate at the Kois Center to take your course. And that's huge, because I don't think there could possibly be a better 3 days in digital dentistry. And all I know is I am going to beg you to let me in if it's filled up because I've got to be there. Anyway, so great to see you again. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Chad, do you want to close us out?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as you all know, Dr. Jean Kois runs a wonderful teaching facility in the Pacific Northwest. He takes only the best of the best. He steals people from Dallas, Texas, to go up to the facility, and that's where he's gotten Dr. Revilla-León. She is just so fantastic. If you want to learn more, go to Dr. Kois's, the Kois Center, and see what they're teaching. All independent research, wonderful research, predictable workflows. Everything they do is top notch. But beyond that, digital dentistry it's here to stay. It's been around for a long time, but I think we're kind of at a tipping point. Greater than 50% of dentists are utilizing intraoral scanners now. We're coming up with all of these efficient, predictable, consistent workflows based upon the modern day scanner. And it's never been a better time to embrace digital dentistry. So Marta, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. Just Google her name and you'll find a plethora of articles relating to digital dentistry, and look into the Kois Center for furthering your education and your on your digital journey, I will say. So thank you all for being here, and hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great night.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Marta. Thank you. Thank you.